Hello there and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you very much for joining me today. I'm Jeanette with Vivo Vintage Designs. Today's video should be a lot of fun. I hope that you enjoy it and that you give it a try. Now let's get started. Hey friends, today we're going to be painting a whimsical snowscape, and I'm going to show you step by step how I draw this. First I'm putting in my hills, and now I'm going to add a few houses. And as I tell you all the time, nothing about these drawings or paintings has to be perfect. So you don't have to be able to draw very well to be able to create these beautiful little whimsical and charming paintings. So don't put pressure on yourself for perfection. Just enjoy the process, and in the end you'll have an adorable painting that you'll be really proud of. So I've added some houses, and now I want to add a little fence here. And now I'm doing the outline of, well, here I'm drawing a house, but prior to that, I just drew an outline of where I want to place a tree later on. And you'll see that I do that a few times throughout the painting. And those lines are very, very light because I do want to erase them later. Now here I'm putting in the outline for a larger tree. And I'm just sketching in where I think I want my branches. And these are the outlines for the other trees that I mentioned earlier. They're going to be very light. Well, the drawing is going to be light. When I paint them in, they'll be darker. Here I'm putting in another large tree. And I just put in the branches as a guide so I know where I want to go with it. And again, those outlines for trees that I'm going to put in later, and then I decided to add a moon. So now for the sky, I'm using the wet and wet technique. So I'm wetting down the area, and then I'm adding my color. I'm using ultramarine blue and indigo. And of course, for your painting, use whatever colors you have in your palette that come close to the colors you see me use here. I'm using my Muñoz pan paints, and as usual, all the supplies will be listed in the description box if you want to know more about the products that I use or perhaps purchase them for yourself. Now you can see that I only went down halfway, and then I added some yellow and orange closest to the horizon. And now to create the snow, I am going to wet down the area, the entire hill, and then I'm going to drop color, the same colors that I used for the sky, at the base of each one of those hills. So you can see here again, I'm wetting down the entire hill, and I'll be skipping around. And then I'm adding the blue, and then using a clean damp brush, I'm blending it in so that I have a soft transition line. I know this painting may look a little intimidating, but it's really not. It's very easy. So make sure that when you start to paint your next hill, next to one that you painted prior, that the one that you painted before is completely dry. So off camera, I did use a blow dryer to dry the paper before I started on my next hill. Again, using a clean damp brush to blend those colors in. And now I'm painting the roof of the house, and I did add water first, and then I dropped in some color, and then used the tip of the brush to blend it in. And you can see here I added the water. Now I'm adding the blue, and then I'm blending it in using a clean damp brush. And now for the houses, I'm using some brown, some burnt sienna, raw sienna, whatever colors you like. I like to do the outline and then use a clean damp brush to blend the color into the area. And I'm going to paint all my little houses in the same way, creating an outline and then using a clean damp brush to blend that color in. And you can see I've switched to a much smaller brush. I'm using my silver black velvet brushes. And for the other side of the house, I use the same color, but in a more diluted consistency. Here I'm adding in a couple of chimneys. I'm painting in my doors. And then for the windows, I wanted to make them look like there was light in them, so I used the same color that I used at the horizon, that yellow. And I painted some of the windows with that. And the ones that I wanted to look dark, I used the diluted color that I used for the snow and the sky. Now I'm using a micron pen. I believe that this is a 03, and I'm going to outline the houses a little bit so that they are more defined. And I'm going to add a little bit of detail to the windows. But I'm keeping this pretty simple. I'm not adding a lot of detail like I normally do to my whimsical paintings. Now I'm using a micron pen. I believe this one has a thicker nib, and I'm adding the fence posts. Just a simple little fence. And now this was one of my favorite parts. It did take a little time, but it was so pretty. Remember those outlines that I told you about earlier? I'm not adding any foliage to these trees. These are going to be just branches, and I used a thicker nib micron pen to create the trunk and the thicker branches, and then I switched to a smaller one to create the smaller branches. This was my favorite part, one of my favorite parts, because you really get lost when you're creating these little branches. It's hard to stop yourself. But I love the way they look. So all those little guidelines that I created, I'm going to fill with these little trees. Now here I'm using a 12 size micron pen to create one of the bigger trees. And as I'm coloring in, I'm leaving a little white space because it looks a little like snow. So I'm not covering the entire area in black. And here I'm using a 05 for these thicker branches. And now I'm drawing the second large tree. You can use a paintbrush if you like for these trees. I just find it easier to use the micron pen, but if you don't have one, use a brush with a really fine tip to create the trees and branches. While you watch me draw these branches, I'll remind you that all the products used are listed in the description box. And if you have any questions about any of the techniques you've seen me use here, please let me know in the comment section. I do read every single comment and I answer all questions. And consider joining our Facebook group, Vivo Vintage Design Tutorials, where you can post your versions of the paintings and techniques learned on this channel. I would love for you to share your version of these paintings with me. Not to mention that we have a really wonderful group of members that are just so kind and so supportive. It's a really safe place to post and to ask for advice. So I hope that you do consider joining. I thought this little scene seemed just so peaceful. I really enjoyed doing this painting, and I hope that it inspires you to give it a try. It's really not very difficult at all. I think this is my last little tree. They look so cute. And you can see that creating the snow was really simple. Now I'm erasing the lines that I used as a guide with a kneadable eraser. And here I'm using a white gel pen to add snow to the branches. And I'm just adding the white gel pen wherever I think snow would have been sitting on these branches. I'm also adding a little bit of snow to the top of the chimney. And I'm going to continue to add the white gel pen to all these little trees. This painting was so relaxing because there's a lot of things that are repetitive, like drawing the branches and adding the snow. And it was just so relaxing to sit there and do this. It was very peaceful, and the scene is very peaceful. So again, this one was a lot of fun. And of course, you can get creative. You can add a little snowman. You can add any elements that you like to make the painting your own. I'm hoping that these videos give you some ideas and inspire you to replicate them and add your own elements and, again, make them your own painting. Now my moon was no longer round, so I used the white gel pen. And you can use paint for this. You can use gouache as well. But I like the way the sky has those lines in it. They look like wispy clouds. So I wanted to kind of do the same thing with the moon. So I just went around and drew circles and tried to make it more round and keep it soft looking. And then of course we have to have either snow or stars. I just used the white gel pen to add some dots in the sky. I was hoping that it would look more like snow, so I added some over the houses as well. And I made some larger and some smaller. If you're daring, you can even use a paintbrush with some diluted gouache and create a little splatter. That would look nice too, but I wasn't that daring. I really liked the way this painting looked, and I didn't want to ruin it by giving that a try. So with the gel pen, I had much more control. Well, now the painting is finished, and I absolutely love the way that it turned out. And if you're still here with me, thank you for sticking around until the end. And here's a picture of the finished painting. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.